Have you ever felt someone pull away so completely that you started questioning if you ever really mattered to them? That silence is loud. That distance feels permanent. And your mind keeps asking the same question over and over. Will they ever come back? You are not weak for wanting an answer. You are not desperate for still caring. You are human. And human beings are built to seek closure. But here is what most people never realize. The avoidant person does not leave because you were too much. They leave because they became too aware of their own inability to match what you gave. That is not your flaw. That is their fear wearing the mask of coldness. Before we go anywhere, let me give you something rare. If you stay with me until the end of this video, you will understand not just the 7 stages that lead an avoidant ex to return, but the psychological shift inside you that actually makes their return possible. Most people never learn this. They wait wrong, they hope wrong, and they break themselves in the process. You will not be one of them. So let us begin properly. You need to understand something first. An avoidant person does not process emotions the way you do. When you feel hurt, you reach out. When you feel scared, you seek reassurance. When you miss someone, you say it. That is healthy attachment. That is emotional courage. But an avoidant person does the opposite. When they feel hurt, they disappear. When they feel scared, they call it freedom. When they miss you, they call it weakness. This is not evil, this is conditioning. Early life taught them that emotions are dangerous, that depending on someone leads to disappointment. So they built a wall, not to keep you out, to keep their own unmet needs from flooding in. Now here is the trap most people fall into. After a breakup with an avoidant, you chase. You apologize for things you did not do wrong. You over-explain. You send long texts. You wait by the phone. Every single one of those actions pushes them further away. Why? Because your emotional availability triggers their fear of engulfment. They do not think, wow, they love me. They think, I am losing myself again. So the return timeline begins the moment you stop chasing, not before. Let me give you a psychological anchor to hold on to. In attachment theory, avoidants have what experts call a deactivation strategy. That means when emotions get too real, their brain literally suppresses memories of closeness. They forget the good times. They minimize the connection. They convince themselves they never really loved you. This is not manipulation. This is a self-protection mechanism. But here's the truth they do not even know about themselves. Deactivation never lasts forever. It collapses under its own weight. Why? Because human beings are wired for connection. No amount of avoidance changes biology. No wall stops chemistry. The same brain that suppresses feelings eventually forces those feelings back up during quiet moments. At 2 a.m., on a Sunday with nothing to do, when a song plays, when a new person bores them, that is when the deactivation cracks. So before we name the 7 stages and timelines, you must accept one uncomfortable truth. The avoidant ex will not return because you beg. They will not return because you prove your worth. They will return only when their internal pressure to avoid becomes smaller than their internal hunger for connection. And that switch flips on their clock, not yours. Most people lose because they try to rush the clock. They send a message at week 2. They show up at week 3. They post things to get a reaction. Every single move resets the timeline back to 0. You become proof that their avoidance was right. You become the drama they ran from. But you are going to do something different. You are going to understand the psychology so deeply that waiting no longer feels like suffering. It feels like strategy, not manipulation, but self-respect dressed as patience. Let me walk you through the first emotional phase that happens before any return. When an avoidant leaves, they feel relief, real relief. You might find that painful to hear, but you need the truth. In their mind, they just escaped pressure. They just reclaimed freedom. They tell themselves stories. I am better off alone. That relationship was holding me back. I never really needed them. For the first few days or weeks, that relief feels like proof. But here is what psychology knows that they do not. Relief after loss is not the same as happiness. Relief is just the absence of anxiety. And absence is never a sustainable emotion. Eventually, the relief fades. And what grows in its place is curiosity. Curiosity is the first crack. They wonder if you are okay. They wonder if you have moved on. They wonder if you are angry. And because avoidants fear rejection more than anything, Your silence becomes terrifying to them in a way your presence never was. When you are present, they feel controlled. When you are silent, they feel abandoned. Both trigger fear, but silence triggers a deeper fear, the fear that you have rejected them first. That is the secret most coaches never tell you. An avoidant returns not when they miss you. They return when they fear you have stopped missing them. That fear overrides their avoidance. That fear makes them reach out. So timeline stage 1 begins the moment you stop reacting, not when you stop caring. When you stop reacting, there is a massive difference. You can care deeply and still stay silent. You can love someone and still let them feel your absence. That is not game playing. That is giving their psychology exactly what it needs to reverse itself. Now let me give you a hard number. In most avoidant dynamics, the first real internal shift happens between week 3 and week 6, not before, not after. Why this window? Because weeks 1 and 2 are still fueled by relief and deactivation. The brain is actively suppressing memories. But by week 3, the suppression becomes exhausting. The brain is not designed to keep lying to itself forever. By week 4, tiny memories leak through. A joke you made, a way you looked at them, a small comfort they forgot they had. These memories come without warning. And because avoidants have poor emotional memory recall, each memory hits like new pain. They do not think, I remember being happy. They think, why am I thinking about them now? That confusion is the beginning of the return impulse. But most people destroy this phase. How? By reaching out during week 3. They think, it has been long enough, maybe they miss me now. And they send a casual text, a meme, an apology, a question. That single message reassures the avoidant that you are still there. And the moment you reassure them, their fear of abandonment vanishes. Without that fear, their avoidance comes back stronger. Because now they know they have power again. You see, the avoidant brain operates on a simple equation. If you chase, they run. If you wait, they wonder. If you disappear, they panic. Not cruel panic, not dramatic panic, but a quiet internal alarm that says, wait, I might have lost something real. That alarm is the engine of every return timeline. Without it, they never come back. With it, they almost always do. Now let me address something painful. What if they never come back? What if you wait and nothing happens? That fear stops most people from ever truly letting go enough for the return to happen. But here is the truth that will set you free. The same silence that makes an avoidant return also heals you. So you lose nothing by staying silent. You win either way. Either they return because your absence woke them up, or you heal because your silence gave you back your life. That is the psychological reward most people never understand. They think waiting is for the other person, but waiting is for you. Every day you do not chase is a day you teach your own nervous system that you can survive without them. And a nervous system that knows it can survive is no longer desperate. Desperation repels avoidance. Calm attracts them. Not because they like calm, but because calm reminds them of what they never learned to have. So here is where you are right now. You are reading this because you love someone who runs from love. That is not a flaw in you. That is a wound in them. And wounds do not heal because you beg them to heal. Wounds heal because time and silence and absence force the person to finally sit with their own pain. Your job is not to fix them. Your job is to become so stable that their avoidance no longer shakes you. And when you reach that stability, something shifts. You stop counting days. You stop analyzing texts. You stop hoping for a message. And that lack of hope, that is the most attractive energy in the world. Because hope is pressure, but peace is permission. When you give yourself permission to be whole without them, you finally become someone they can return to without feeling trapped. And that is the only version of you they will ever stay for. Now, I promised you 7 key stages and timelines. But before I name the first stage, I need you to hear this with full clarity. These stages are not guarantees, they are patterns. They come from decades of attachment research, clinical observation, and real human stories. Your avoidant ex is unique, but their psychology is predictable. And predictable means you can stop guessing and start understanding. Stage 1 begins the day the relief ends. That happens around day 21. Not day 7, not day 14. Day 21 is when the brain tires of its own lies. That is when the first genuine thought of you appears without effort. I wonder what they are doing right now. At this moment, most people have already broken silence. They have already sent a text. They have already lost. But you will not. Because now you know. The first 3 weeks are a test you pass by doing nothing. Literally nothing. No stories. No likes. No checking their last scene. No asking friends. Nothing. Your silence is not punishment. Your silence is the only language an avoidant understands when their walls are still up. By week 4, that quiet curiosity turns into low-level anxiety. They check your profile. They ask a mutual friend casually. They listen to a song you liked and feel something they cannot name. This is not love yet. This is emotional bleed. Their wall has small cracks, and cracks let light in. By week 5, if you have still not reached out, something important happens. Their brain starts to romanticize the past. Deactivation reverses into idealization. They remember only the good parts. They forget the fights. They forget why they left. This is not manipulation. This is the brain protecting them from the pain of loss. But for you, this is the window, not to contact them. To understand that inside their mind, you are becoming more valuable every day you stay gone. By week 6, the fear of never hearing from you again becomes louder than the fear of being trapped. That is the tipping point. That is when an avoidant either reaches out in small ways or starts positioning themselves to run into you. A vague text, a story reply, a question about something unimportant. That first message is almost never about love. It is about testing if you are still angry, still waiting, still theirs. How you respond to that first message decides whether stage 2 begins or the timeline resets. But that is for the next section. Right now, let what you have learned sit inside you. You are not waiting helplessly. You are allowing psychology to do what begging never could. You are becoming the one person who did not chase. And in an avoidance world, the one who does not chase becomes the one they cannot forget. Stay here for the next section. That is where the real timelines begin. That is where you learn exactly what to do when the silence finally breaks.